There it is. All right. Give us a shout if you can't see our screen, but I believe we should be good to go. So let's get this party started, everybody. So we're here. Perfect. Here talking about using technology to keep kids on task while you're learning from home. So we did a webinar last week that was a lot of fun during a really difficult time for everybody right now, which was talking about what it's like to be learning from home, to be homeschooled, while there is this big thing that we're all facing of COVID-19. So we're just waiting for this to go back to normal. So in the meantime, many of us are doing school from home, which is fun and exciting and challenging and tiring and frustrating and lots of different things. So we wanted to talk to you guys about how to leverage some different technologies and even some just ideas about how to get the most out of your learning experience from home. So let's take a look. So what is the goal? We want to help kids stay on task. Staying on task is a fancy way of saying help them focus, because if you can't focus, it's really hard to learn. And if you can't learn and pay attention to your work, then it's hard to finish things. And so your productivity goes down, which means that you're unable to complete your work. And part of becoming a great learner is practice. Practice, practice, practice. There's something that we used to use in school psychology called overlearning. If learning how to do 5 long division problems is good, learning how to do 15 is even better, because if you were a little bit rusty on the last 3 or 4, you get more and more practice to the point when it becomes almost boring. That's when you know that you've had enough practice. It's time to go to the big game. So going deeper, we want to help kids build independence through developing focus and other executive functioning. One of the reasons that it can be challenging for a lot of kids with focus issues, especially kids with challenges like ADHD, can be that executive functioning is really difficult. And what executive functioning means, like the name implies, is that kids are junior executives. They have responsibilities that they have to remember. They have to actually execute upon these different tasks that are on their plate, and have to remember to do so in a timely fashion, to prepare for things, get them done in a timely manner, and then go ahead and move on to the next thing. So being able to juggle all these things in your mind is known as executive functioning. So these kids typically have a hard time with planning, executive planning. So being able to plan forward enough that it leaves yourself enough time to get things done in an orderly fashion, remembering to actually turn things in that you have done can be really challenging for these kids as well. So using technology can empower them to be their best self. And I'm very big on being your best self, because not everybody is going to be as awesome in everything as everybody else. Everybody has a certain strength, certain things that they're good at, and certain people have certain things that they're not so good at. I'm a great example. I know what I'm good at. I'm good at creative problem solving. I'm good at verbal communication. I'm good at the scientific types of things, because those are things that interest me as an adult with focus challenges. But what I also understand is that I don't love doing mental math. I don't love doing long division in my free time. So it's important to identify your strengths and also know your areas of need. And that's where some technology can help out. So how can it help? So you can use your technology to help stay on task. It can give you peace of mind as a parent or a caretaker to actually empower this child to work on their own, so that you are not perceived as being annoying or being badgering or nagging someone to do their work. It's exponentially inflated the amount of pestering that your child perceives you doing, while you are only saying, hey, remember we were supposed to complete your math homework right now. It's 12 o'clock to 12:15. You were going to do these problems. One little thing, if you're a parent, is inflated like 100x. If a teacher said that, it's no problem. Or a babysitter or an aunt or an uncle or grandparent, no problem. But when the parent for some reason gets involved, it's this perception of, you don't know anything, my teacher only knows, or you always want me to do this, or you never want me to do that. Things are very, very artificially inflated for most kids in general. But we see especially our kids with focusing challenges, they tend to overestimate the challenge of things and the difficulty of things, and they tend to underestimate how long things will take them that they think will be easy. So if they think that homework will be hard, if you say to them, did you know these problems should take you about 10 minutes? In their mind, it's a huge endeavor. Frustration, anxiety, panic, tears, these are not uncommon because they think it's going to be extremely hard and way more difficult than it probably will be. But if it's something that they think will be easy, how long do you think that'll take to clean up your room? Oh, 5 minutes. I'll be ready to go to soccer in 5 minutes. When in reality, it's like a 30-minute project. So just be aware of that as we move forward. So one thing to add in, as you saw from the pop-up at the bottom, you need to get things done too, especially during this homeschooling period of social isolation. You know, as a parent or a caretaker, you may or may not have other things to do. You may have housework to do yourself. You may have your job work to do yourself. You may have other kids to try to take care of. So empowering kids to work at their own space, the kitchen table, their desk, their bed, wherever they're working. It's important to empower them so you can actually break free to do what you have to do as well. And I will say one thing from a psychologist perspective, doing homework on your bed or reading in your bed, if you're a child, not a good idea. Your brain learns that your bed is associated with laying down, resting, sleeping. So when you start to try to do work on your bed or study and learn on your bed, your body starts to get mixed signals. You tend to get kids who start to drift off and they get sleepy and they want to lay down and I'm just going to take a nap for 5 minutes. There's something that you can look up if you're bored later. Google SLANT, S-L-A-N-T, the SLANT technique. It is in the same mindset as that in terms of if you are physically prepared to sit, lean forward, attend, etc. There's an acronym essentially that describes physically setting yourself or your child up for success, so that if they are more likely to be in a physical position to learn, they're more likely to be in a cognitive position to learn. So look that up later. It's a really neat strategy and you can use it at home as well. So let's drive into this a bit. What can parents do with technology? So you can create clear expectations with a daily schedule. I cannot emphasize enough the need to have a schedule and a routine when you are doing school from home. You can provide reminders to stay on task, stay on schedule, and keep up the good work, even when you're busy doing something else. And if e-learning is not provided from your school, you can give your child a list that we have of fun educational activities that they can try each day. So here's a couple of high-tech options. I left one off, which is a famous one because it's just so much money that it didn't seem appropriate, but we will reference it later on. But you have a couple of different flavors of technology. You can start with a basic pedometer that gets some steps because activity is important for kids. They're changing classes, they're going from their classroom to music and then to PE, they're going to recess and running around. And that doesn't always happen when you're in a school at home scenario. But it's good to track some steps and make sure kids are getting enough activity and exercise. You can use a standard fitness tracker. It tracks steps, it has a software app. Or you can use our Revibe, which does track steps. The check mark fell off there, that's my fault. But it does track steps, it has a software app, and it also helps with attention and fidget and some predictive analytics to give you some insights in how kids are doing. As I mentioned, I left one out, which is the Apple Watch. It's a great technology tool. It's just a lot of money to put on a small child, so a lot of people don't go with that option. But if you have an extra one laying around, you can always leverage that as well. So let's take a look at some low-tech options. You don't need any technology. If you're crafty and you're old school, you can use an egg timer to set a schedule. Hey, 15 minutes, you are going to work on this particular task. Or what we're going to do is I'm going to reward you using the smiley face chart. Every time that you are doing your work, I'll check in with you every 10 minutes. And if you're doing your work when I come back, then I'm going to give you a sticker or a badge or a reward or a token or $1, whatever that may be. But I wanted to emphasize the two general things that I think are important for schooling from home. Have a routine, have a schedule set up, and be consistent with it. And then reward the kids, reward children for doing a good job. As an adult, most people don't show up to work just because they love their job. There is some monetary incentive that goes with that. Kids respond similarly to their parents, but they need appropriate rewards as well. Praise, attention, let them know that they're doing a great job. Give them some stickers. You can take puzzle pieces. This is a good trick from home. Take a puzzle that you have, You take all the pieces, and every time the child's doing something good, you can reward them with another piece of the puzzle so they can have a visual to say, wow, I'm doing a good job. I'm almost there. I'm halfway there. I'm halfway there to get whatever the agreed upon prize is. Maybe it's 5 minutes extra bedtime. Maybe it's an extra scoop of ice cream, whatever it may be. Use a visual to give them some frame of reference for the reward. Rewards are key, and so is consistency. So let's look at a consistent schedule. If you give your child a sense of structure and security, you know, do it in a way that you can replicate each day. We actually have a free planner on our website. You can download this free planner. That's really helpful. You can also use a couple different things. You can use Google Calendar is a great tool. It's free. It's on your phone and your computer. You can use Boo Boo, which is a calendar app for kids, which I believe we have there on the second image. You can use our Revibe app. And our Revibe app is actually free also if you wanted to just download the app. Excuse me, you don't necessarily need a Revibe hardware device. You don't have to use a wristband. You can, of course, and it will send reminders to your wrist. We'll look at later. But if you just wanted to have a schedule for your child to look at on a tablet or a PC, or a phone or something like that, you can put a schedule into one of these free tools. It's also helpful to automate the reminder cues. So if you notice on your phone, you can set up free calendar reminders, both from Google, or you can set it up if you have an iPhone where it'll pop up a reminder to your phone. So you can have it for specific tasks like take out the trash, regular time check-ins. There's 25 minutes left in English language arts. Make sure that you get your essay done. You can also have encouragement. You are great. You're doing a great job. I love you. These are really helpful things for kids. Kids respond well, amazingly well to structure. I've heard a lot of parents when I was a school psychologist who would say, my child, my kid is doing really well with that. They never do that at home. I don't know how they do it here. And a lot of times the secret is school inherently is a lot more structured than a home setting. Home is made for enjoyment and relaxing, and school is made for learning. So they're just intrinsically two different environments. So now a lot of people are forced to merge these two things together, the school and the home environments, and it can be challenging. So kids respond well to structure, so make sure that you give them that schedule that we talked about. So here's some technology that you can use to automate reminders. You can have a Revibe app has and our device has a little feature where you can have it pop up things like take out the trash, time to take a deep breath, time to transition to your math homework. You can also use a Pomodoro timer, which is something where it's kind of a shortened cooking timer. The Pomodoro method is a unique philosophy of work for 15 or 20 minutes and take a 5-minute break, which sounds like it'll extend how long it takes to do something. But for most kids, in my experience, it actually doesn't. When kids who struggle with focus and attention hit their peak, they kind of hit a wall, if you will, where they work, and all of a sudden they stop because they're think of it as their battery has run out for their focus. If their focus is an electrical device in their brain, their focus circuit, they've tapped that resource out. And it's kind of like your cell phone. If you've ever not charged your phone and it's run out of battery, gives you that annoying battery icon when you try to call your friend back, you plug it in and it still flashes. Now, if you had just taken a break and either charged it up before or stopped using it, then you wouldn't have had to have zero battery because it would have never run down to zero. So don't let your child run down to zero either. The same thing happens. So when you give them a break where they start to get low on that energy level in terms of their focus, give them a little break, let them go for a walk, take the dog for a walk, in your backyard or wherever, have them take a water break, do some sit-ups, push-ups, draw for a few minutes. About 5 minutes is typically good. Then you have them come back and get back to what they were doing. If you try this, I promise I'll make you a believer, because what can sometimes take 2-3 hours to do homework in a traditional school year, and now a couple of hours to do some tasks at home, you may find that it now takes an hour and a half, because when they are working, you're getting great work done. When they're not working, they're relaxing a little bit. So give that a try. There's a couple of apps that are Pomodoro apps. You can use those as well. A couple different options in the App Store. So again, Google Calendar, you can use that. Boo Boo, Pomodoro apps. There's a lot of different versions out there, or the Revibe app as in conjunction with our Revibe Connect wristband. You can get some help in terms of homework. We've created kind of a Pomodoro method, if you will, inside of our device. So what we do is our homework mode, if you set the device to homework mode, it'll automatically remind kids when to take a break, and it will also remind them when it's time to get back to work. So one of the kids in one of our research studies said to us a long time ago, I really like the homework mode because when it tells me to take a break and it flashes and vibrates, I know it's party time and I can go have some fun for a few minutes because it's blinking break time. And when the blinking and the party lights stop, it tells me to go back to work. And then I know that the party's over and I have to get back to my homework. But for a lot of people, they like that because it allows the child to just focus on their own work and the parent to focus on whatever they're doing. So it gives a nice bit of separation, which is important when you're cooped up. Traditionally, as a parent-child relationship or caretaker-child relationship, you're spending, let's say 40 odd hours a week together between the mornings and the evenings when the kids are in school. And then when you're doing the school at home, you're spending, 70, 80 hours a week now together face to face. So it can be overwhelming, right? Too much of a good thing is not always a good thing because it can lead to struggles and challenges and fights and things like that between parents and kids. So getting a little bit of separation is always good. We also, during homework mode, I should mention, we provide periodic reminder vibrations during the work time, the work session, to help them tell them be aware to focus and to pay attention as they're in their work session. And this is just one of the modes. We have an adaptive learning mode that learns their needs for each period or each class as well. But it's important to provide some fun activities. It's important whether you're at an office to take a break and go talk about your favorite show for a few minutes here and there with your colleagues, because if you don't have any fun at work, it's hard to get work done. Same is true if you're 7, 8, 10, 15 years old. Have to have a little bit of fun. So we can share some resources with you that we have in terms of educational links and things like that. So here's some right here. We've got PBS Learning Media, offer lesson plans, videos, and games for kids. Scholastic has a Learn at Home program that you can access. The Kennedy Center has an artist in residence, Bill Williams, who offers doodle lunches in a live stream at 1 p.m. every day. So depending upon kids' ages, try to start them out 1 to 2 hours when you're doing the school at home thing. And you can step kids up more and more the older that they are and the further along that they get. What I've been telling people is it's important to not backslide. What I mean by backsliding is if you start, hey, we're going to do 2 hours a day of school at home. The next day your child says, I don't want to do this. Let's just do a half an hour, 30 minutes, an hour. If you say yes to that, you've immediately broken the system. School doesn't work like that, right? Your school doesn't say, we're going to do 8-hour school day today. Maybe tomorrow we'll do 4 hours. It's consistent. And once kids learn consistency, which can be tough at first, it's especially tough to start schooling at home. Some folks have shared with me that they were on a break for the first week or two, but now they're back in school at home and now trying to transition, especially from a week or two at home during a vacation or a holiday break, to now get kids to start thinking about putting down the, fun books, comic books, video games, bicycles, pogo sticks, whatever kids are doing, and pick up their textbooks and get on the computer to learn can be a really hard thing. But again, consistency is the key. You may not be voted coolest parent in the world. The first couple weeks, kids might resist and push back. But my philosophy is, teachers view their primary job as not to be the child's friend and to be viewed as cool. It's to be viewed as somebody who's there to help them and who's consistent and who cares. So it can be hard. A lot of parents have shared with me over the years, they're afraid of putting their foot down. They don't want to be the bad person, the bad guy, the bad girl, the bad parent. But you can't be afraid to be firm and be consistent. Kids really will, although they'll buck and they'll kick their feet and say, I don't want to do this in some cases. If you push through and you're nice and consistent but firm, and you lay down some good ground rules, you can really make sure to put a good program in place that kids will eventually get used to after a couple of days or a week or two of getting on the bandwagon of school at home. So just my point is, don't give up. It's hard. A lot of people are posting on social media just how hard it is to be a teacher. They've learned that getting kids to do things that are not necessarily so fun is not fun for anyone. But be consistent. Don't give up. Your kids, I promise you, will not stop loving you. You know, again, you will get some tears, you'll get some frustration, but once everybody can find a good groove, things work out. That's why I do recommend start light. Hey, we're going to start 30 minutes a day doing some school stuff, and then you can progressively step up. But again, it's that mindset I shared earlier where, hey, we're going to do 3 hours of something. To somebody with focus challenges will immediately put their hands up. Oh my gosh, that's way too much. It's too hard. We can't do it. It'll never work. Okay, well, let's start early. Let's start simple. 30 minutes a day. Now we're going to do 45 minutes, then we'll do an hour. You can step it up after a couple of days. Here's some resources for kids, young adults, I should say, age 7th to 12th grade. No Red Ink is one that helps with writing and grammar practice. It's actually 4th to 12th grade. Lumosity's got some fun brain games and critical thinking. And then Duolingo can help you with foreign language for practicing while your kids are out of school. Again, try to limit school to 2 to 3 hours for middle schoolers, 3 to 4 hours once you get into your groove for high schoolers when you're learning at home. Some more resources for K through 12. Khan Academy is a great one, personalized self-paced learning. PBS Media offers lesson plans, video games, and then Brain Pop is one that we've seen a lot when I was a school psychologist. They have some really fun lessons and quizzes and cartoons that allow kids to learn in a fun way. And they are offering, I think, some access to this while schools are closed due to COVID-19. So check out our full list of resources at blog.revibetech.com. And then our friends, we are strategically partnered with a wonderful assessment company. They're the world leader in assessment, multi-health systems, known as MHS. They have a digital resource toolkit they've been putting a lot of time and energy into creating and cultivating for parents and for educators to ease the transition from school to home. So they have online learning resources, family de-stressing techniques, some museums and virtual tours, some sample at-home schedules, a coronavirus crash course for parents, which I think is an awesome idea. And they have a compendium of educational resources for you guys to check out. So if you're new to Revibe, we get a lot of questions, and we will turn it over for questions for a couple minutes if we have any. But if you're new to Revibe, what we're trying to do is we're promoting independence through vibration reminders. We're trying to incentivize kids to do their best by providing badges and rewards and animations like rocket ships taking off. And we're giving parents and kids data to say, hey, I started here, or my child started here, and now we're here. So this is great, because it's hard to celebrate successes, and you don't need a Revibe to do that necessarily. You can use an old school sticker chart. You can even just make your own. You don't even have to download something. You can just take a piece of paper, put some lines on it, and think about it as almost the way that we would reward kids during potty training. You can do the same thing for schooling, but different rewards, different expectations, obviously. But kids really work well when they know what they're supposed to be doing and they know what they're going to get out of the deal, which a part of it should be the understanding that you're going to learn something, and here's why learning is important. The other thing, though, that kids will say is, well, what else is in it for me? So you can build in some fun things. Hey, here's some stickers. Again, here's some rewards, extra bedtime, an extra scoop of ice cream, whatever it may be. But definitely, you know, what we are excited about doing for kids in general with Revibe is providing some insight for things that they can potentially look at that have been helpful. So we scan all the data at one point. A few times a month, we'll scan everyone's individual data, and we'll share with that individual, here's what we learned. When you took X amount of steps in the morning, you know, you were this much more focused in the afternoon, or when you got this much fidgeting in, you were this much, your attention span went up from this many minutes to this many minutes. So you can learn from technology. But at the end of the day, it's all about building self-confidence. I'll share two more things as we're parting ways for you guys, or with you guys here. Exercise is important. It's really easy. Everyone's staying inside right now. There's a lot of social distancing is the common phrase. It's very easy to forget to get kids exercised and to get them to move. There's been a lot of good research that shows that movement can help kids. Sometimes fidgeting is actually helpful. We're seeing that with our Revibe data for, when we anonymize all the data and we kind of take a look at it in-house here, we're seeing these amazing trends that for some kids, the more they move, the more they fidget and get the wiggles out, the better they focus. For other kids, certain kinds of movements or fidgeting is unhelpful. But generally speaking, it's good to give kids the opportunity to move and exercise. So that's really critical. So you can also track steps, as I mentioned, with a pedometer, a regular fitness tracker, or a Revibe. So track kids' steps and make sure that you are getting them to move, be active, and also that you are catching them and rewarding them being good. The thing I want to end, that I like to end all these sessions with is this. You guys have an extremely hard job as a mom or a dad or a grandparent who's ever taken care and responsible for a child. It is a very difficult job, and that's just for any kid. When you layer on top of that children who have focus and attention challenges and you've got them cooped up in a house, it's extremely difficult. And here you are trying to learn strategies that you can use. You're trying to learn how to become a teacher. You're trying to learn how to optimize your parenting. What tricks and tips can you pick up? What else can I do? There's this constant guilt in the back of your mind. Am I doing everything I could be doing for my child? What if I had started this stuff sooner? Would they still be struggling so much? You can't beat yourself up over it, moms, dads, grandparents, and caretakers. Just the fact that you're here, you're online, you're learning about things you can do, that's the biggest first step, is just doing something. The worst thing you can do, the only bad thing I think you can do when it comes to helping children with focus and attention issues, is to just do nothing. Because when you go nothing year after year after year, nothing ever happens. So try different strategies, try some interventions, join some groups in various settings, Facebook groups, support groups, learn what other parents are doing, because you're not alone. You're not the only person who's dealing with this. There's a lot of other people and a lot of other kids. And it's helpful to let your kids know that as well. Tell the kids, because oftentimes they'll tell you, I think I'm dumb. I can't do it. All the other kids are smarter than me or better than me. And it's just not true. When I used to give IQ tests for a living as part of my job as a psychologist, I saw a lot of kids with focus and attention issues who would beat themselves up and then have low self-esteem. They thought they couldn't do it. They thought they weren't as smart as the other kids in the classroom. And a lot of times I noticed these kids were average to above average intelligence, meaning compared to the other kids in their class, they're just as capable, oftentimes more capable. Just being able to put the rubber to the road to get their focus. They have a powerful car, but their tires are just kind of spinning instead of getting traction and going. So it's the focus that allows them to get that traction that they need. And I will tell you this, once kids get that glimmer of success and they feel what it feels like to do well, you'll start to see a whole new child, because for a lot of kids, they get dug down to a hole over the years, and it becomes really hard for them to stop this cycle of struggling to start over and to just start to get up higher and higher in terms of their grades and their learning. But don't give up. And don't beat yourself up. No one's perfect. You guys have a full-time parenting job. So if you're one of those parents who has put things off because you've been working, taking care of a house, taking care of a family, and it's been a year or grade level or two since you've really done anything, you can't think about the past. Let's focus on the future. What can you do now? Promise you, it's not too late. Start putting things in place to help your kids be successful, and reach out to us if we can be helpful. We're not just here to sell technology. We're here to help people. So however we can help, point you in the right direction, talking to other folks, we're happy to do so. We're here for you before the COVID pandemic, during, and after. So please let us know what we can do. And if we have a couple of questions, I'm happy to take them. Ms. Morgan, do we have any questions that you can shout out, or anything that we should take a look at before we say goodbye to our friends?
Yeah. So first off, a few people had just asked if we were going to be sending out the recording of this, and absolutely, we are. Every time we have a webinar, we send the recording out at the same time the next day. And it's also typically available on Facebook Live under our videos on our Facebook page if you ever want to go back and reference those. So yeah, so another question about Revibe, actually, from Lisa Marie that I'm seeing, is a question about Revibe potentially working with stubborn behavior.
Yes, yes, I see that now. That just popped up
Yeah.
on my screen. So yeah, what's really interesting for us with our new Revibe, the one that came out last January, Revibe Connect, what we've seen that's interesting to me from my clinical curiosities are that, and we've heard this from when we did some pilot studies with certain school systems before we actually launched the product. We were getting feedback from teachers that kids who were traditionally very challenging or oppositional, in some cases they were defiant, these kids were finally starting to have success, and they were building relationships with the teachers that they hadn't experienced before. And when we dug into this a little bit, what we learned, at least for these particular schools who shared this with us, was that the hardest first step seems to be pausing this cycle of challenge, pausing the cycle of, I can't do it, I can't do it. You know, the kids tend to get called on more, they get called out more by their parents, by their teachers. When something crashes in the house or someone's whispering in the classroom, the first person to get their name called is usually the child who has the focus and attention challenges. It's just one of those things, that's how it goes. You know, think about Alvin and the Chipmunks, who was always getting in trouble from Dave. Alvin, right? Even if it was somebody else. So this is what the kids get used to. So what we learned from this study, anecdotally, was that schools were saying it was really hard for us to catch this child being good for a change. And when we started to actually have some data from their wrist, from the Revibe, to be able to celebrate and say, hey, you responded to 70% of the prompts yesterday, and your average attention span was 6 minutes. You responded to 85% of the prompts today. Great job. And your attention span went to 8 minutes on average today. High five. And then the kids got the high five, which feels terrific, but they also got fun badges in the app, and animations and rocket ships are blasting off. So just giving them that first foundational stepping stone to feel like they can be successful, and then to get a reward and to have something that's, you know, inside of a framework, if you will. The nice thing about an app, whether it's the Revibe app or you're using a Google Calendar or some kind of a smile face chart, when you stick with it and you make a routine out of it, it's easier to remember to reward these kids and to give them praise, give them a pat on the back, because a lot of times they don't get that. And it's especially hard when you're schooling at home, right? Because on one hand, you're saying, stop, you know, pulling your brother's shirt over his head and doing this, but good job, because you did a really nice job when you're reading. So you have to like compartmentalize almost. When you're in homeschool, you're doing homeschool. And then when you're parenting, you're parenting. But so to answer your question, Lisa Marie, we have seen that this is a tool that actually has had some success in schools to give people that opportunity. We've also had some anecdotal feedback from parents who have said, it's nice to be able to set the reminders that pop up on their wrist so that I'm not the one saying, have you started cleaning your room? Have you brushed your teeth? Have you started your social studies homework? Have you started your math problems? Because it's on their wrist. And they'll just say, hey, check your Revibe. What are you supposed to do? Or check your, you know, your iPad, whatever modality you've input it into. So they like that it's not just all on the parent. They're sharing some of the challenge that comes with reminding children to get back to work. Let's see, I think we have another question or two.
James had a question to piggyback a bit on the question that you were just answering. If you have anything else to say for tips for dealing with like problem behavior times.
Absolutely,
yeah.
Absolutely. A common pitfall that a lot of people fall into, you will get the feeling inside, I have to act, especially like if one child does something to another child in your house, you have this intrinsic parental voice that says, do something now, you've got to regulate this and step in. But a lot of times what happens is, even in school, sometimes with teachers, it's hard. So what you have to remember to do is wait for a teachable moment, because when they're worked up and you're worked up, you're going to say things as a parent that you will sometimes regret, or you'll say it in a tone that you will sometimes regret when you're in the heat of the moment. And the child, exponentially more so is not in a place to hear what you're saying and responsibly process it and give you a nice response back. So what tends to happen is child does something wrong, parent chimes in and says, don't do that. Child will yell back or do something. And then the parent will say, you can't talk to me like that. And it's really unhelpful and it's really unfruitful. And it feels weird to do nothing because you want to like remediate and correct and let them know right away that they shouldn't have done that. But it's in my opinion, the best time is to wait a couple minutes, wait till you feel cool, wait till they feel cool, and then have a conversation about it. If you can think of it like this, ask yourself this question, because we tell the kids before you do something, before you talk back to your parent who needs a break because they're homeschooling you, count to 5. If you can count to 5, and you may ask yourself, am I ready to talk to my own kid now? This guy from the webinar told me don't talk to my kid till I feel calm. How do I know when time is right? Ask yourself this. Would I say this to a child at my house on a play date who is not my own? If you have your child's friend is over and they did something wrong, treat your child the way that you would talk to that other person's child, because that's how you will get a fruitful, calm conversation where you can share what happened, the child can share back with you what they felt, and you can move on together. But if you try to do it when you're both heated, it's just going to lead to a disaster. Let me jump to the next question here. James, I hope that was helpful for you.
Yeah. Kara, she had a question similar to James's, and also mentioned that her son seems to present, more difficult behavior with the more Nintendo time he has. Like under normal circumstances, he would only do it on the weekends, but I guess if you can speak to like maintaining a balance with that, his behavior.
Yeah. So it's a challenge. She just kept scrolling. She mentioned, they're New York City, so they're very limited in terms of where they can go and venture out to, and a lot of people are in a similar boat. Again, and somebody else had also asked about, varying ages from like 9 to 14, and that's a really weird time in life, right? When kids start waking up at like noon, and that's when they want to get up. So to answer, I guess, both questions, what I think is important, again, is to just start really small. And you can also be transparent with the kids and just say, this is hard for all of us. This is new. We're going to drive each other a little bit crazy. I've seen really weird faces from kids in a good way of kind of, holy cow, this guy's talking to me like I'm a real person. That was my key to success when I was a psychologist. Kids would say, you're treating me like I'm a grown-up too? I'd say, yeah. Do you want to be treated like a grown-up? Yeah. Keep talking to me like this. This is good. So you can really, especially in a difficult situation when you're used to you and your kids kind of bickering back and forth, you can really flip the whole thing on its head and make them do, like, if you ever have a puppy and you say something and the dog kind of looks at you and goes, huh? Your kids can do a similar face of, we don't talk like this. How could this be? And sometimes you need to reset, right? You get in this weird doldrum of just repetitive thing over and over. I talk to them like this. They push back. They don't listen. Go to your room, time out, repeat. Try something new, but then be consistent with this new thing. So talk to your kids and say, hey, look, when you are telling me no and you're fighting back, like that's not helping. Let's figure out something that can help. Let's start over. We had this weird routine. We were all trying to wake up at different times. Let's all pick a time that we can do. So let's all start at 1 p.m. If everybody's up at 1 p.m., let's start this, and we're only going to start for 30 minutes a day. But we did school longer than that. I know we're only starting at 30 minutes a day. And what feels weird to you is, how come we only do 30 minutes of school? That's crazy talk. Sometimes you have to just make people wonder. You have to get kids' eyes to bug out for a second to go, I've got a great deal. It's like if you ever bought something at the store and it rings up really cheap and you're walking in your car and you kind of look back like, someone going to come out of the store and ask me to take this back? Did I not pay enough money? I better get out of here. You want kids to feel like that when you're trying to transition them to something new. You want them to feel like they're getting a great deal. They're getting one up on you, and that's okay. It's like a forced choice system. We used to do this a lot in the school system. Kids think they're getting one up on you when you let them pick. But what you're really doing is you're structuring something within some confines that you as the grown-up have elected to partition them, right? So you can say, I'm going to let you pick one of 5 things. Do you want to do math, science, social studies, language arts, or foreign language first? Whatever you want to do. You pick the order even, any order you want. And they go, really? Last week you said I had to do this first because I don't do well with this. And yeah, you pick whatever you want. They go, awesome. I'm in charge now. They are in charge, but they're still working under the orders of what you gave them, right? They're still working under your purview. So it's important to mix things up and try something new. But then once you find that new thing, to be consistent with it.
Yeah.
All right.
And then lastly, I know you have to hop off for more meetings, but and I think you did touch on Jenny's question, but just to recap, she has 4 kids, 9, 12, 13, and 14. So a lot going on in their house right now. But she just had a question about, dealing with all of this when all of her kids have different schedules and are doing things at different times. And I know we touched on, leaning on technology for that. But I also wanted to let you know, Jenny and others, that we're going to be putting out a lot of a super pack of printable charts and checklists as well. It's not necessarily technology, but just charts and checklists to guide your child through the day, like a morning routine checklist, the simple things like brushing your teeth and eating breakfast, and then, bedtime routine as well, things like that. And Rich, if you wanted to speak a bit more to that, if you had anything else to add.
Yeah. Let me share one more suggestion. Erica asked a good question. She mentions video games can be a problem. On the upside, they're fun. They are a break, a distraction from school for a little bit, which is not a bad thing. And they allow her son, in her case, to, I guess, communicate. He probably has some cool Bluetooth headphones or something. He's talking to his friends on whatever game he's playing. So the social part is good, is what she was saying. And I agree. Depending upon what game it is, I think that's a cool opportunity for the kids to have. But the challenging part, she was saying in her note here, is that getting the child to transition off of the video game is really challenging. And then, the child may get angry or whiny. And then I'm sure, and I'm guessing this part, it turns into some kind of a elongated, drawn out kind of, knock them down, drag them out battle, where, you are now the bad guy. And every time, you try to pull them off of this, what we're getting is that, you become the bad guy over and over and over and over again. And that probably gets old pretty quick. So I'll share 2 things that I've learned, and I'll share them in reverse chronological order. Our former chief operating officer here, a gentleman named Dave Manica, taught me something. He was really, really tough when he was making new hires here at Revibe. He really interviewed people and made it very difficult to kind of get in, right? And I said, well, what are you doing here? It's a really tough process. And he said, Rich, hire tough to manage easy. And I love that philosophy. And that goes along with what my mom shared with me. My mom was a school teacher. She taught 3rd grade for about 30 years. And what my mom would share with me was that she would be really, really tough on the kids the first month of school. And then all of a sudden it was a whole new Mrs. B. And then she was much, much easier. And I would say, well, why were you so, strict and probably seemingly mean to the kids the first month? And she said, because once you can get, children to kind of get in a routine and they understand what the rules are, then you don't have to be that way for the rest of the school year. They'll learn that these are the rules and this is how things follow. But you have to be very, very firm and unmalleable at first. So my thought to parents like Erica would be something like this. If it were me, I would do what my teachers did in college. I didn't love to show up exactly on time when I was in college. Had a lot going on, a lot of things to learn, a lot of classes to go to. So one of my classes, I would kind of roll in a couple minutes behind, but you know, fashionably late. And then the professor started to just lock the door before I got there. And then I was thinking, we're cool, I'm cool, you're cool, can you let me in? Nope, bye-bye. That happened twice, and I was never, ever late again for those classes or for any college classes. So what I'm suggesting is you're gonna have, if you have an 8 out of 10 struggle when you try to get a child off the video games now or whatever they're doing that's fun, that's not schooling, you may have a 10 out of 10 battle on your hands for the first couple of times. But once you pull the plug out of the video game and you take the little power adapter with you and you take it on upstairs, if they go over the time that you set, you don't have to have a conversation time 2, 3, 4, 5, right? They'll know. I've got video games from 1 o'clock to 2 o'clock. If it's 2:02 and I'm still on here when mom comes in, I'm not going to get this video game back for the rest of the day. I'm not making that mistake more than once or twice. I'm going to be wary of my time. I'm going to be aware of what time it is, and I'm going to stop because I don't want to lose it, my 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock time slot or my 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock time slot, whatever they have. So just really setting a firm ground rule down and then sticking to it. It is the hardest thing as an adult to mean what you say and say what you mean and to be consistent with it, because nobody wants to hear yelling, screaming, you're a bad mom or dad, I hate you. It's tough, but parenting is a tough job. But that's my thought of what I would probably do if I were faced with that challenge. I would just go, we're not going to argue about it. We're not going to yell. I'm taking this adapter. Thank you very much. You will get it back tomorrow. If you don't want this to happen again, then please be aware of the dates that we've put in place or the time schedules we have in place. And then it becomes not an argument because it's just a fact. Boop, done. So that's something that you can potentially try. But with that, I want to thank everybody for coming. We had a lot of great people come out today. So thanks very much. Let us know if we can be of any help to you, whether you're a current Revibe user and you're experiencing any financial challenges during the COVID-19 outbreak. Please let us know. Give us a shout. We're here to support you guys. We have some new programs coming out that'll be, I think, extra supportive. So keep us posted how we can help you guys. Hang in there. Fight the good fight in terms of learning to reparent during these tough times. But I think everybody will come out okay. Just be consistent and just be there for your kids. Thanks, everybody. Be well.